Welcome. In front of me is a Huawei Pura 70, and today I'll go for unboxing along with a quick look at the device itself. So let's just get straight into it. Oh, I don't actually need a knife. Never mind, I do. That was absolutely useless. Whoa, almost dropped it. Anyway, popping it open. For a split second when I popped it open, because of the depth, it looked like it was empty and I got super sketched. Anyway, in here we get the device itself. In this, on the camera it might look white. This is more like a very light silver color. Damn, I really like this design. It does look a bit too much Apple-like, with the just the sides being completely metal. So yeah, it does give me Apple vibes, but all in all, it looks really nice. Now below that, we just have useless info, or useless cardboard. Then we got a useless info, and below that, we have something that I love to see, which is a case included with the device. This one is plastic. There we go. Then another thing that I like to see with the device, which is a charger. So this is a, oh, there we go, 66 watt charger. Pretty good. And a cable, which is type A to type C. And that's everything we have in the box. So let's boot up the device, and while it's booting up, I'm going to quickly talk about the specs of it. There we go. So in a second you'll see the display with bezels, which the bezels right here are basically going to be minimal. So the display size, let's start off with that, is a 6.6 inch display with a resolution of 1256 by 2760. It's an LTPO OLED display, 1 billion colors, HDR, no 10 plus, so there's no certification for it, 120 Hz refresh rate, and a peak brightness of 2500 nits. Now, I do want to point out one thing. This is an OLED display, even though it doesn't really have a certification for HDR 10 plus. Let's be honest, it's an OLED. Like, if any display would have certification, it will be this one, as the bright areas compared to the like dim ones. So anything like white obviously will illuminate infinitely more brightness compared to fully black, which on OLED displays just means that the pixels are completely turned off. So if anything can produce a HDR 10 plus image, this would be it. The only thing that it might not really boast up to is the brightness, but it does support 2500 nit brightness, so I think they just decided to skimp out on paying for the certification, but the device obviously is more than capable of doing so. Now, it also boasts a 460 pixels per inch, and it has something that I'm seeing for the very first time in my life, which is Kunlun Glass 2. What? I'm gonna quickly check if that is just GSM Arena trolling or if this is actually a real thing. It looks like it is. Okay. So anyway, I have no idea how durable this glass is, as this is the first time I'm basically even seeing the name of this. So I am going, as you probably might expect, completely blind into these videos. But continuing on, let's now talk about the cameras at the back. So we have a triple camera setup, and the main sensor will be a 50 megapixel f1.4 to 4.0 25mm wide lens with laser autofocus, optical image stabilization, and PDAF. Now, so it looks like it has a variable focal point size, not focal, but I mean it does vary from 1.4 to 4 aperture. So not sure which one that is, to be honest. It might be this one. Now this is going to be hard to show, but it does have like these kind of like a shutter to it If I can maybe grab my camera, put it on macro, maybe that will actually show it. Macro, let's see. So it's relatively visible, I think, on the camera right here. So you can see there is like a, let me just make it a little bit brighter, like as much as my phone can support. So you can see there is a bit of a shutter with this kind of angular design. So yeah, it does look like it's going to be the bottom one. Now anyway, moving on. Next we have a 12 megapixel f3.425mm periscope telephoto supporting PDAF, optical image stabilization, and a 5-time optical zoom. Now, no doubt this will be this one. Again, camera-wise, it's not really picking up, but you can see the mirrors in here, so it is kind of embedded in there. And then we get a 13 megapixel f2.2 13mm ultra wide. Now, with these cameras, you can record videos at 4K, 1080p, and doesn't really specify the frame rates. So, you know what? I'm just gonna start going to the setup and figure that out once I get to it. But with the resolutions, it does support HDR and gyroscopic electronic image stabilization, along with optical image stabilization. And one thing that I can't stand is the fact that I need to connect to Wi-Fi to set up the device. Are you freaking kidding me? There's no reason for me to do so. Absolutely none. Outside of you trying to gather my data. So I'm gonna do that because I obviously love to give away my data to greedy companies that never ask for permission. They basically give me a phone and be like, yeah, just give us our data if you want to use your device. It feels like I'm being blackmailed right here, to be completely honest. So yeah, I absolutely hate this. Anyway, let's continue on into the internals. So in terms of internals, we have a 4,900 mAh battery. Now, don't have it, maybe later, and leave. And it does support 66 watt wired charging along with 50 watt wireless charging. So that's pretty sweet. So not only can you charge your device super fast with a cable, you can still charge it faster wirelessly than a Samsung Galaxy flagship model will charge with a cable. Yay, let's go. It also supports a 7.5 reverse wireless charging and 5 watt reverse wired charging. So there's a bunch of options for you to utilize right here in terms of just reverse and normal charging. Now, let's talk about the processor, RAM, and storage. So the base entry of this device will come with 256 gigs of storage and 12 gigs of RAM. It can be spec'd out to 0.5 terabyte of storage while retaining 12 gigs, or 1 terabyte again with 12 gigs of RAM. And the device is being powered by a Kirin 9010 processor. So honestly, I have no idea how these processors stack up. That caught me off a little bit off guard with the sound there. Pretty neat looking animation right there. So in a second, I'm gonna check out the cameras like I mentioned before. But before I do so, I want to check Kirin 9010. I'm gonna be looking at Snapdragon processors. I just want to see how they stack up to each other. Probably the best version to look at in terms of just how powerful this device is would have been Snapdragon Gen 3, 8 Gen 3 more precisely, as this device was released in this year, April 18th. So I should be comparing the flagship processor from Snapdragon to flagship processor, I assume, from this. I'm not sure if this is flagship, to be honest, but the price would damn certainly, you could assume so. So, let's see, anything interesting right here that I can find? So, okay, sorry for the silence, quick one there. First thing that I'm finding is the Snapdragon 888, which is a, 4 or 5 year old processor right now, is basically faster in CPU performance not by much, by like 1 point on the nanoreview.net website. And in terms of gaming performance, the Kirin is 3 points higher, 3 points from 100, that is, which it scores 73 compared to the Snapdragon 70. But keep in mind, this is a 5-year-old processor that I'm comparing it to, which is the Snapdragon 888. If I were to compare it to something more recent, which this is actually, never mind, I'm taking that back. It looks like the newest processor that they're showing is Kirin 9000, which actually wouldn't be very correct, I think. There we go. Okay, so I found it with Gen 1. So bear with me. Gaming performance, Snapdragon Gen 1, 8 Gen 1 more precisely, just completely, and this language will be very adequate, shits all over this processor. In terms of CPU performance, it's close. The Snapdragon 8 Gen 1 gets a score of 67 compared to the Kirin getting 62. So 5 points more. Nothing really substantial right here. On Antutu benchmark, it gets a Snapdragon, a 21% lead with a score of 1,178,353 compared to the 972,547. So 21% lead for the Snapdragon. And this Geekbench proceeds to basically be the case for single core performance being 17% higher for the Snapdragon, while multi-core, this one apparently wins with an 8% lead. And GPU score, a whopping 358% higher for the Snapdragon. Wow, that's an embarrassing boost there. Anyway, the reason I went a little bit more in depth into the processor is because this device probably will be sold primarily in China. And even in China, you can get cheaper devices that will be significantly better than this one. The processor right here is the biggest not benchmark, but biggest hindrance to this device. This could have been a fantastic device had it been priced adequately to what it offers. Giving you just a renamed of a shady processor, which is Kirin 9010, doesn't really justify the over $1,000 price tag for a device that offers basically a 5-year-old performance for the phone. So this is my biggest problem with this. So had it actually included a better processor, which they can't because of the ban that US kind of forced on them, or had they priced this adequately, this device would have been fantastic. Probably for about $600, I would have said this is a fantastic, but at $600, I'm pretty sure they're not going to be making profit. But such as business, if you're going to produce a device like this, it better be good, or it's going to lose to competition. And the competition, even in a China market, would be Xiaomi. So they're gonna just completely stumped on this one. Maybe not in terms of cameras, as Huawei does tend to optimize their cameras to be one of the best ones on the market, what they can offer. But in terms of performance and what you get for what you pay, Xiaomi will be basically taking the crown there between almost every other manufacturer on the market. And that being said, obviously things like, for instance, the X6 Pro from Poco from Xiaomi will outperform this phone on almost every aspect, apart from just cameras, I expect, as Xiaomi isn't necessarily known for their cameras, right? But in terms of performance and the fact that the device will cost literally half or like a third of the cost of this phone, it really makes no sense to go for such a device, in my opinion. And if you want to have a good phone for photography, then go with something like an iPhone. I'm pretty sure they're selling those in China, and you will basically pay the same amount while having a device that can outperform this one. So again, just questioning, why would you go for the clone of an iPhone when you can get for the same price an iPhone? And really can't believe that I'm saying this, but it looks like iPhone might be a better option compared to this one. And obviously the biggest drawdown right here for Huawei outside of China will be the fact that it doesn't come with Google Play services, so you're just locked into their more new kind of ecosystem where it might not be as good as other ones like the Apple ones or the Google, which has been out for decades now. So they had ample amounts of time to just make it as good as it possibly can be at this point. So there we go, that's my overview of this device, and if you found this video helpful, don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and thanks for watching.